What is up, Mike?
What's up, Vin? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. We got a special guest with us today, Mike.
Yes, we
Very
do.
exciting. Tina Cervasio
Hello.
from local Fox 5 here in New York. She's the lead sports anchor there. She also does a great Sunday show, Sports Extra, 10:30 p.m. every Sunday. She's also CBS Sports Network, sideline reporter, football. We just were talking to her before that she's doing Army games. She's actually going to be doing Army-Navy pregame show December 9th. She's going to be a part of the CBS Sports Network with Army starting October 28th. I think I got it all right, Tina?
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, Vin and Mike.
Yeah.
Great to have you.
Really good to have you. You know, Tina, you come on at a good time. You know, we were emailing a little bit, and the Jets won a huge game last week. The Knicks open up their season next week, so we're in good spirits here on Vin and Mike. But we always like to start from beginning. So with you in sportscasting, I know you as a child you went to the Rose Bowl with your family, and then you had a huge appreciation. So can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of grew up where, so like a lot of my family was in education and then they were coaches. So my mom was a teacher, and then all of my uncle, all of her cousins, they were all educators, teachers, principals, and then also high school coaches, some college coaches. And we would spend our weekends, because we're, a big fat Italian family, going to see the cousins on Friday and Saturday, who's coaching softball in Belleville, who's coaching basketball in Belleville or Caldwell College, who's coaching crew in Nutley, freshman football Saturday mornings, Belleville high school football on Friday nights, where my godfather coached for many, many years. So that was like just part of my life. So sports just was everything, it was part of the family, the fun, the food. And then my dad was dying to go to the Rose Bowl. It was on his bucket list. My mom was like, great, Southern California. We'll go to the parade. We'll go to Disney, Los Angeles, the whole Hollywood thing. Dragged my sister and I along, because what were we going to do, And I just fell in love with it. And that was when I really went to my first college football, big football game. My dad would take me to a lot of Cornell football games because he played at Cornell. So we would go to Cornell Princeton, Cornell Columbia, and up in Ithaca. But this was the big one, and it was the Rose Bowl. And I loved it. I learned players' numbers and rosters and positions and, why one guy did this. And we would meet family. I was playing UCLA, and we met a lot of the traveling Iowa families. And it was just a whole great experience. And my dad just simply told me, and I was young. I was 11 years old, and about to turn 11. And he said, you should find try to do something in a career. Like, you want to be something. At the time, I wanted to be a dancer. I was in ballet and tap and all that stuff. So he said, you should find a career where you can work in sports. And there's this woman, Gail Gardner, that's on the NFL Today on Sundays. And she does the pregame show, and she does interviews, and she's at games. And, so she's a woman that does it. Maybe you could do something like that. And then here we are many, 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 many years later.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a great story, and it's funny you mentioned Gail. I was just talking about, those original CBS sports shows with Jimmy the Greek and Brent Musburger when they did that. That's like what we grew up on. It was that CBS show and everything. So, Mike dove into, how you started, and I want to go where we are today and what you're doing. Can you talk a little bit about your Sports Extra Sunday night show for people that don't know, what that's about?
Yeah, so every Sunday night, 10:30 p.m., Channel 5 in New York, New Jersey, our whole market area. I host Sports Extra. The show's been on the air half a century. It was created and originally hosted by Bill Mazer on Channel 5, but it was actually it was a different call letters back then, but it was before it was like a Fox affiliate, but it was Channel 5 in New York, and it was Sports Center before there was Sports Center. So Bill Mazer would be doing the scores for, like Steelers, Broncos, and he would be doing the entire NFL and just doing scoreboards. And then, of course, highlight the Jets and Giants. And he really kind of just created that like cover the whole week, because then of course when you have baseball and basketball, like what happened this week with the Knicks, and then the big thing was having, you know, interviews, other sports, right? You know, back then there weren't as many radio hosts and television hosts, so he would have the sports writers on, and then, you know, sometimes have the athletes and coaches on. It was different then. Athletes and coaches wanted to be on TV and in the media, so they would drive in and show up at the studio. Today you got to pay them millions of dollars to do that. We don't have that budget. We don't even have a car service, but I make my way. I've kind of adapted along the way. And as the show has evolved over the years, they changed the name. It used to just be Sports Extra, EXTRA, but because of the Fox branding, it just became Extra with the X. And really only, gosh, when I started about 6 years ago, full-time at Fox 5, our news director really wanted to get away from highlights because he felt, well, you know, the Jets game ended at 3:30, you know, when you have a 1 o'clock game, even a 4:30 game. Right. And everybody sees if they didn't watch the entire game and they're a sports fan, say they're not a Jets fan, they're going to see the highlights. They're going to see the score. They're going to scroll through whatever social media they're on and see the best plays anyway. Maybe do more of an introductory kind of a highlight and tell more of a story. What's the storyline? Who had the good game? What is it? Sometimes the storyline's the fans. Sometimes it's just straight up one injury. I mean, if I talk about Daniel Jones, if I had a dime for every time I talked about Danny Dimes' neck this week, I'd be a millionaire. So, you know, that's kind of what the big story always is. So we kind of changed that a little bit, integrate social media. And then I always try to have maybe a comprehensive type of a guest, like a writer, a beat writer who's with the team every day. And there's 15 professional teams, not including all the college teams. I barely get to cover Rutgers football, and I love Rutgers football. I love college football in general. Obviously, I do the sideline reporting for CBS Sports Network on the weekends. I do features every so often on Army when I can. But I mean, we're coming up with St. John's basketball this year and Seton Hall. I mean, that's big time stuff. And we have great college teams, men's and women's soccer at St. John's, men's and women's soccer at Rutgers, at basketball at Rutgers. So it's tough because I'm a sports department of one. We don't really have a sports department. And my sports producer really only is a sports producer Saturday and Sundays. He is a news producer his other 3 days of the week. So it's tough to cover all the teams. So I do the best I can. So I like to have a beat reporter on because they're with those teams every day. I mean, I might not get to Knicks practice till December. I do plan on going this week. I should be able to get there, but maybe the Nets might get a little ignored this week because they don't have Kyrie and Durant and a big three anymore. And I already got my big Ben Simmons exclusive a couple weeks ago. So I might, like, you know, it's opening night. I'll still address the Nets and I'll still have sound bites, but you know, I'll only be able to go out to Knicks, and we'll see what happens with the Jets and Giants this week. There's just, you know, and then there's hockey. So it's a lot to get in 22 minutes of show because of our commercials. So, you know, and then I'd like to get a coach or a player or a former player on with whatever sports in season or whatever the big story is as well, have those two guests. So, and then we do send a reporter out to the biggest games. So Jennifer Williams is our Sunday sports reporter. And then whatever's the big game of the day. So we had her going to, and I forget if it was Jets or Giants at home. I think it was Giants. And then Buck Showalter gets fired. East Rutherford to Queens. We're like, get out there. So that's what we do on Sundays. It's my favorite thing. I love it because it's New York sports. It's where I've always wanted to work. I've always wanted to work in New York City, born and raised in New Jersey, but wanted to cover the New York sports. Grew up 6 miles from Giant Stadium. So I was a Giants fan growing up with my late grandfather on my dad's side. And that's, you know, kind of where that's my main gig. And then during the week, I'm full-time at Fox 5. So on Mondays is a big reporting day, big producing day. Sometimes it's news of the day. Rangers opening night, I did last Monday. Then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm on 6 a.m. on Good Day New York. And that's where I anchor my sports. So I'll tape my anchor segment on Sunday nights because I work, you know, till 12:30 on Sunday nights, and especially with the Giants and Jets playing these primetime games all the time, so late. And I'll take my little Monday morning anchor segment. So they just kind of roll it, and I pray nothing breaks overnight, but they'll add it in the news segment. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm live on Good Day New York from 6 to 10. And sometimes I'm out in the field. Like I said, I was at Rangers last week at Madison Square Garden. Had on Adam Graves and Stephane Matteau as my guests, which was super fun. I mean, just legends, you know, and we're this team, you know, we're hoping to get back to that Stanley Cup championship. So those guys were talking about that. This week I'll be out at Giant Joe. I'll be out at Nick's on Wednesday morning, the day of the home opener. Always excited to see what guys they'll bring in for that. Whether it's the guys I watched like John Starks and Allen Houston, who I've gotten to know very well since they retired, which is so funny. I'm like, oh my God, I used to be like crazy. And then, or guys that I've covered, like Marcus Camby's come on with me before, Latrell Sprewell. I requested Amari and Carmelo because those were the guys I covered when I was at MSG for 7 years. I did the Knicks sideline reporting, and they are in town, so we'll see what we could do. But they're still doing their own things. So
that's what I was just going to say. That's why I was so excited to have you on, because that's where I remember starting to watch you, was those Knicks sideline reporting with the Mello, with Amari, the D'Antoni years, the Woodson years, and seeing Tina Cervasio doing that sideline reporting. And I know back then we didn't have too many good teams. There were some tough years there. We also had Linsanity that you got to be involved with, which was so cool.
That was so cool.
When you look back at that time period, those 7 years, what really stands out to you being at the Garden doing that? Because it was covered some great things.
Every game at the Garden is a big game. I mean, I always tell this story. I think it was my first or second year. The team had 17 wins, or actually 22 wins going into the final game. And it was a home game. And, they were eliminated weeks earlier. And that place was so loud. I think it was like my third year. I'll just never forget it. And the place was so loud, and the players were into it. And the Knicks did win that game. And you would have thought like it was a playoff game. And I think I was interviewing like J.R. Smith after the game because he had the best game or whatever. And the place was going crazy. And the season was over. And they had just won their 23rd game, not their 57th. Or they're, for that matter, that I was there when they won 54 games. But it's just the Knicks fan in the Garden give it such a great atmosphere every night. And then forget it. When they are in the playoffs, it's absolutely insane. Yeah. So that was neat. And just early on, to cover Kobe Bryant and LeBron James when they came into the Garden, it was a big deal for them. It was always, and then the media quadruples. And I just remember being in such a thick crowd around Kobe Bryant. They had to bring him into the hallway, and LeBron, only speaks at shoot around because it's so crowded and so many people needed to be around him. So when the big players came in, because obviously like the Knicks weren't, the good team then. So it was like, all right, here come the Lakers, here come the Heat and that. And so it was just always a big event. It really always felt like that. So that would stand out. But my favorite, one of my most incredible moments that you don't plan for, it's just you're coincidentally there. And it's when Carmelo had 62 points at the Garden. So that was really fun to cover that Garden record for a Knicks player, and just edging out Kobe, because I was at Kobe's 61 game. And then who had the 60? But anyway, Carmelo broke the record. Bernard King had the 60 point as a Knick home record, and then Carmelo beat it. And he was the guy that Carmelo looked up to. So that was a really fun moment to cover.
Yeah, it's funny, me and Mike always talk about it. Like when the Knicks are in the playoffs, as much as like the Yankees or the Giants or whoever it is making a playoff run, but the Knicks in the playoffs, it's like a whole different feel around here. Yeah. Even like you get off at Penn Station and you walk upstairs and, right outside the Garden, and there's, 1,000 people just buzzing around, while the game is going on and all that stuff. It's just a whole different atmosphere there.
It's a basketball city. It really is, we struggle all the time. And this is what I learned early on when I first started working in New York. I started at CBS 2 in 2004. And that was when they used to have a sports department with a sports director, an assistant sports director, assistant sports producer. And then they had 4 talent. And I was like the 5th talent because I worked Saturday and Sunday mornings live. So those were the days. But the big thing was they always told me Yankees lead. Yeah, even if it's off season and something's up, it was like, and this was mid 90s. Oh no, early 2000s. So it's like, but that's also when they were, just coming off the dynasty, and they still ended up winning in 2009. So that was like a different time.
Right.
So, I know when I was covering the Knicks, it was either lead with Knicks because of the drama, lead with Knicks because of the stars, because they did have a big 3 in Carmelo, Amari, and Tyson Chandler at the time, and then great other role pieces. But then it was lead with Knicks because they were good with that one season. So the Knicks definitely, I see like the generations and the years that it edged them out during that time. I mean, lead with Jets since March 16th. And then, and then September 11th happens. My head's still spinning from the whole Aaron Rodgers things because we're still covering him, even though he is injured. So that's just fascinating. But speaking of buzz, I mean, and you guys are Jets fans, right?
Mike is.
I am. Vinny's a Raiders fan.
Oh, okay. So did you see Mark Davis was at the Aces game the other day because he owns the Las Vegas Aces. Yeah,
I watched that game.
Yeah, people are getting a kick out of it. I'm like, he owns the Aces. Like, what? How did you like? A lot of people, everybody just started kind of watching. Obviously, the WNBA finals. I get it. So the New Yorkers didn't realize. So that was pretty funny. But I digress. Jets. Oh, so speaking of buzz, just taking the train to New York City. Starting in July, it was Jets posters and ads where it was always Giants. So It was really cool to see that. And it was exciting. And then, all the billboards, for 11 days of Aaron Rodgers and all his brands in New York City and Times Square. So that was kind of cool. That was a neat change to see for the first time in my career, but I mean, even though going back to like the Mark Sanchez and Rex Ryan days, but that's when I was like kind of just starting. And I was, I was at the Knicks when like Brett Favre came. So I wasn't covering and as aware, it was just like all Knicks during that time. It's been really cool to have that Jets buzz.
Yeah, Vinny and I were talking about it. The fact that they're 3-3, we would have been happy with that with Aaron Rodgers in that schedule. Well, so we're ecstatic right now as Jets fans.
We would buzz around like in the media and like the media rooms, like, after like a Rodgers media session, they're like, oh, what if they're 1-4? How will he be? Like, because we're all still getting to know him. So like that was a very high possibility as well. So when I even heard Zach Wilson the other day from something that was taped kind of behind the scenes. I was catching up with One Jets Drive, and he was saying how, there was a point where it clicked with him like a couple days before opening night. He said, I've got to always be ready. Like I have to be ready for every game. It's like something just kind of hit him. He goes, I hope it wasn't foreshadowing in my brain, or I had a feeling. He's like, I didn't think it'd be 4 plays, but anything, just to be ready. Somebody must have said, reminder, he's 39. So thank goodness, and it's great to see Zach evolve. I think that's such a great side story, his evolution.
Yeah, he's played really well the last 2 games, and I think that's what's gotten them to 3-3. And I think about it, if Rodgers was there for these first 6 games and the way their defenses played and the way Breece Hall has played, I think there'd be a lot of buzz that they would be the AFC representative, in the Super Bowl. Especially you see, Kansas City looks, a little shaky still, right?
Every so often, yeah. Especially that game in that life.
Yeah, the Dolphins are weak on defense, right? They have all this super speed on offense, but they're weak on defense. The Jets defense, it's like the Jets defense and the Browns defense are like amazing, and both their quarterbacks, well, Rodgers is basically out for the year unless he makes the miracle comeback that he says he's going to make. Or Watson's been hurt. You would think if they were fully healthy, Browns and Jets could be making noise in the AFC. It's been a very wild football season so far.
It really has. The parity's insane. The injuries just makes me upset. No, I don't care what team it is. I hear another injury, a guy out for the season, a guy on, IL for 6 weeks. I'm like, God, what is going on this year? And not that glad is not the right word, but there is that irony. A lot of these injuries, I always look at the stadium. See, that was on grass. Like I'm just making sure it's kind of even the grass and turf injuries. So I've noticed that controversy has gotten, simmered down a little bit because I know that was another big story earlier in the year.
I think for me, when I look at these injuries and thinking about over the years, these guys don't practice as much as they used to.
Preseason. Yeah.
They don't play preseason like they used to. So they get out there in these first few weeks and they're still, a little rusty. They haven't played that amount of minutes in a while. And those bumps and bruises become much quicker, and I think that has a lot to do with it as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, even you don't have to play 4 quarters in the preseason, but get them out there to start a game, see what it feels like, get back out for the second and third series, because it does. Yeah, it's all about muscle memory. As fine-tuned as they are, it still all comes down to the same thing.
Yeah.
So I agree. It's definitely the way they've cut back on the practice, on the preseason games, and also the way they coordinate practices and all the practice rules.
Yeah, all that nice union contract negotiations.
Yeah, I mean, they're helping with the concussions, but they're not helping with the knees and Achilles, like those things.
It's crazy.
Help those parts of the body too.
So how disappointed were you with this baseball season? Because, me and Mike talked about it, in early April. We're like, we're going to get at least one. And it looks like both these teams in the playoffs, it's going to be a real fun October, we thought, around here, and, because Rogers was here and the Giants were in the playoffs, and it looks like the Yankees and Mets are going to, be these top teams. And now we're sitting here in October, and we're looking at, nobody making the playoffs anyway.
Oh, and Justin Verlander starting a playoff game tonight, but it's for Houston.
Max Scherzer, right? It's the other night too.
You go
Hard
back.
to see it.
Yeah, Scherzer the other night. It was fun to watch him get shelled. We were talking, I guess, when the playoffs started, like we were my sports producer, and we're just like laughing at the irony. And we're going back like through my Instagram, like all the pictures, like here we are at spring training with Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer, and and they were so upset just about the fact, about Diaz. But I think that was the trickle down effect. I mean, if Diaz was there, maybe it would have been a different season. Who knows? But the fact that they, had the sell off, and oh my goodness, it's just crazy. It's just so Mets, right? All the stuff was going on with them, and then the Yankees. It's been and no changes. Still, I mean, if they haven't made changes yet, they're not making them. It's,
And their excuse is, Judge was hurt, Rizzo was hurt, Rodon was hurt, Montez didn't pitch last year. We're going to, they're all going to be back. They're going to be healthy.
Cortez not hurt. I mean, it's when it goes deeper when you see the irony. Like, be prepared when you start.
That's their excuse of why they're not making any changes, because their thinking is we had 10 or 15 games more we could have won if we had these guys healthy.
It was weird because they would start those little streaks, right? The end of August into September. It's like, oh, well, they're still in this. And then like something would, they would just wouldn't.
Yeah, as soon as they got it, just, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Whether it was pitching. I mean, and Garrett Cole, what a phenomenal season. How could you have a pitcher like that and not be in the postseason?
I know.
Phenomenal.
And it's a shame because it's so overshadowed because of their play.
Yep. So overshadowed. He's another like just phenomenal pitcher, takes it to a whole scientific, mental level. So happy for him that he had the season. He's finally, get that elusive Cy Young, but like how disappointing, because he, I know he's kind of got like a monkey on his back about the postseason, the way he's pitched a couple times. So for the Yanks so far. So disappointing. And even last year, I mean, with the Judge home runs, that was so exciting the month of September. And then when he finally broke the record that first week of October, and then, Yankees were chipping along and they eliminated. And then the Mets with the 100, the 100 wins. Like, I feel like it's 2 years of just this chaos and disappointment with the two baseball teams. And they're still the two highest, spending teams.
What was the most exciting game or event that you covered in your career? Like for me, one of the most exciting things I ever was at personally was Dwight Gooden's no-hitter, right?
Yeah.
So I was able to be there. I always tell Mike the story that I paid $10 for a ticket in the upper deck right behind home plate back in the old stadium, But, what was the most exciting thing that you actually covered?
I've been around some cool moments. It's hard to pick one, and one's going to make it's a culmination. It's going to make everyone cringe if you're a New York fan. But I worked in Boston for 2 years, and I was the dugout field, whatever you want to call it, clubhouse reporter for the Red Sox. So that 2007 season they won the World Series, just all different games. There was games where, John Lester comes back from cancer. David Ortiz comes back from a heart condition. It was just the Kurt Schilling, his off the field stuff aside, went no hit against Oakland, 2 1/3, 8 2 in the thirds. He gave up a grounder late in that game, and but that was neat to be at. They did have a no hitter. Clay Buchholz had a no hitter on call up day. It was the second time he ever pitched in the big leagues. So I got to cover a no-hitter, see it, do the post-game interview. So that just whole culmination of 2007 Red Sox was just unbelievable. Oh, and then like just waiting for Daisuke Matsuzaka to fly from Japan. We were live for 17 hours following his plane. And Red Sox fans were up through the night on Yawkey Way. And I was reporting from the stairs at Fenway, like looking down on the fans behind me in December. So it kind of started then, December of 06, all the way through 07. So that was just really wild. But, you know, to be at the Carmelo game where he, you know, scored that 62, Gardens electric. Another experience, I covered the Olympics in 2004 for Westwood One Radio, which was one of my big gigs early on. It's like one of my breaks early on in my career. And to cover Carly Patterson winning the gold medal for women's gymnastics and the all around was really cool to call, because, you know, it's America's sweetheart when the one of the women's gymnasts wins the all around for the US. So that was really exciting. It always stands out in my mind. I'm probably forgetting some stuff. I mean, I've seen some amazing things. I've seen with the New York Red Bulls, Thierry Henry score a golazo, you know, right from the corner kick into the goal, which is insane and very rare. So that was, and just such an iconic player internationally. To see him do that in America, pretty cool. What were some other? I mean, to see the Judge hit 61 and 62. I missed 60 because I had to get up 3 a.m. So it was, and this was in September. This was, you know, against, I think it was home against Milwaukee. Yeah, and it was a late night. The game was taking forever. He was like 0 for 3 or 1 for 3 with a single. And I'm like, I'm just going to go home and get to bed. You know, at least 60 was just tying Ruth. It wasn't like he was breaking the record or tying Maris. And I missed 60. I was right when I got home, turned the TV on, he hit it like almost immediately. I think the game went to extra innings. I could be wrong, but it was just a long game. And so, but seeing 61 and 62 was just thrilling. And then they won the division while they were out there. So I got to like participate in the whole champagne shower interviews. So that was kind of fun to be involved in again. Yeah, there's just been like cool moments like that. I mean, I thought September 11th this year was going to be one of those incredible games to see Rodgers run out of the tunnel with the flag. It was like and I've been to Super Bowls, and pre-game was like a Super Bowl.
It was crazy.
The energy, the amount of media and celebrities on the sideline. And it was just so nice because I was like, 3 years ago, there was nobody in these stadiums. Like, just think about that, people. Like, just think there was nobody in here. And we're like crammed on the sidelines of the field. And that was just so unreal. And to hear it go from that to a pin drop. So that was just crazy to see. Not the best moment, but just crazy to see in person. So, so I've been really lucky. I've been very fortunate to experience some really neat things.
I wanted to ask you, you know, you've done television, you've done radio, 2 totally different mediums. And I wanted to ask you, how do you find success on both? What do you have to really differ in your presentation from radio and television? You know, people who want to be sportscasters, what do you find with that?
Well, specifically for sideline reporting, you definitely have to be a little more descriptive, eyes and ears for radio. So I do a lot less radio than I was doing for a while. I mean, I was hosting a lot on NBA radio for a bit. The thing about radio, there's more words. There's more words. There's more time for you to talk because there is no picture. And there is no layout for the crowd noise. Even though there is crowd noise, you have to describe what is happening while that crowd noise is going on. Are they on their feet? Are they hanging over? Are the players telling them to be loud? So you have to still describe things while there's audio. So there's just a lot more description, and you have to be so much more aware with radio. And so that's the biggest difference with the sideline reporting. And there's just more opportunity too, because they need the eyes and ears down on the field, because there's less of that. There's no mic situations, or you can put a camera on a player getting his knee worked on or climbing out, off of a stretcher or whatever, or getting carted off. But with that, sometimes it's not seen. He was screaming when he got on the stretcher. Well, there's no camera to capture that. So then that's the sideline reporter's responsibility to be there and describe that on radio. So that's the biggest difference, a lot of description. So there's definitely times when I would host radio, when I would host NBA radio, I loved it because you get to talk for 3 hours. And with a sideline report, you can go into a game with 25 reports, or like I do reports, things to look for too. In a rain game, is a guy changing his sneakers? How many towels did he use? Depending on the sport. Is he changing uniforms, or what's the process to stay dry, or cleats, or whatever. So like things to look for. There's somebody's injured on the offensive line. Is he wearing a knee brace? What's he doing or guys on the bike? So I do that a lot. And sometimes you get on 2 times for a whole game and you have all of that material. So when I would go to radio, it was just fun to finally get everything out that you prepared for. And then add your opinion to it too, because with the sideline reporting, it is 15-second report and get out. And I'm yelled at all the time because I have so much stuff. It's frustrating. And sometimes they snap the ball early, or the mic isn't on me, or the like lead to me takes like 4 extra seconds, and that whole 4 extra seconds means a lot. So it's tough. The TV is very, very muted and timed, where that's what I love about radio. You just, there's that opportunity to get it all out.
Where is the Army Navy game this year, December 9th? Where is it going to be hosted?
It's up in the Boston area. It's in Foxborough at Gillette Stadium for the first time. Robert Kraft's been trying to get it for a while.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. So you're doing 2 different pregame shows for it?
So, I mean, it's one huge pregame show, but they kind of break it up like titles, because the first pregame show is like Army Navy tailgate. So it's all of the lead up to it, a lot of our feature stories, a lot of guests. I mean, and Army Navy, there are people on the scene, and military and generals from 7 a.m. I mean, it is such a scene at whatever stadium it is. And so we cover all of that, and then the tailgating and the fun stuff and the featurey things. And for the March On, so then the next hour is Army Navy March On. And a lot of times it's very little announcing for the hosts and the reporters. And we watch Army Navy March On, that whole tradition where all of the cadets, all of the midshipmen, the precision and the marching, and then the cheering, and, who's got a little note maybe, on their hat or on their capes. It's just so phenomenal to see they're young students, and they've already committed themselves to the U.S. government and to serve the country. And they're also brilliant students. And it's just amazing to see them march on and support. And the midshipmen and the cadets are at every single game, every single home game that their team plays. They're required to be there because it's all about requirements and filling your requirements when you're at a military academy. Same goes for Air Force. And but they can't wait for that Army Navy game. It's just such a historic rivalry, but it goes so much deeper. It's so much more beyond football. So that's the next hour where we do the March On. And what I love about that is we'll pull cadets and midshipmen from the march, either before they've marched. Yeah, it's usually right before they go. And we grab them for interviews, and they're just such impressive young men and women. It's just fascinating. And I hope one day, I'll look back at some of those interviews, and I'll look at the president and be like, oh, well, I interviewed them when they were a cadet at Army right before they marched on at the Army Navy game, because that's how you feel when you meet these young men and women. It's just incredible. And then it goes into, then at one point, then it switches over to the good old football, because it's always a great running showdown, a great defensive effort. So
yeah. I have a good friend of mine. He lives in Highland Falls.
Oh, how nice. I love it up there.
Yeah, he I'm guessing as a resident of Highland Falls, you're allowed to work the games, attend the games. Like you have like this whole, so he's always telling me, it's, they're not NFL players. You're not going to see them, but the level of football they play is just amazing. And he always trying to get me to go up there. Maybe one of these days I'll go up there.
Oh, you have to. There's a game next week, next Saturday against UMass. Okay. And Army's not having the greatest year. They're going through a lot of transition with their scheme and their offensive system. And, it's cyclical with players and talent and things like that. But when that stadium's packed too, and I'll tell you what, like they almost beat Boston College. In previous years, they almost beat Michigan. They almost beat Oklahoma. When because the coaches always say, these big D1 coaches, they hate playing Army, and they were 100% triple option forever. Now they're kind of switching. It's kind of like this run hold option. It's like they're trying to find a name for it. It's a little bit of mix of everything. There's still a lot of option, but they're definitely going on the air more because you can't cut block anymore. And once that rule changed, they tried to do it. There were so many penalties and so many injuries to their offensive linemen. So they that's why Army's trying to go through this transition on the offense, but the big players, I mean, the big, Power 5 schools, their coaches, do not let them outplay you. They're going to outwork you because they are that much more disciplined. Like they just are. They get up at 5 a.m. and they march and they have to study till 2 a.m. You're not doing that. So guess what? They're more disciplined than you, and they're going to be more disciplined on the field. So that's the biggest thing. That's why they hate playing Army in the best of ways, because of how noble and how much respect they have for those Army players.
Yeah, it's great. Really, really interesting stuff. Mike, anything else?
No, I had to get back to the Red Sox because did they give you an honorary World Series ring? I read something about, did they give you?
Oh yeah, they'll have a World Series ring. I mean, it's not like as big as David Ortiz's. Okay. So like, his is going to have like, 25 half-carat diamonds in it. Like mine's just not that big.
That's very cool though.
But it's a nice real ring. I mean, it's real gold, real diamonds and rubies. So it's crazy. Yeah.
How did that whole affiliation happen with the Red Sox? That's what I wanted to ask you.
It was a full-time job opening. So I was freelancing. I mentioned CBS 2. Mm-hmm. So I was at CBS 2 as the morning sports anchor on Saturdays and Sundays, and then would fill in as a reporter during the week if somebody was out, Saturday nights. And then my full-time job at the time, I was doing traffic on the radio. It was Metro Traffic at the time. It's gone over so many different names. But I would do, and it was a split schedule. I would get to, it was right in Rutherford, right by the stadium, a high rise over there. And I would get in my little booth and I had 3 different names because sometimes I would work for competing stations. So I would do traffic, news, sports, from 4 till 10, I would write for the first hour, and then a lot of the radio shows start at 5 for traffic. And then I'd be back there at 4 in the afternoon doing the afternoon drive. And then sometimes I would fill in and do some traffic on television. So I was working 7 days a week, and this job came up and I auditioned and interviewed and got it. Wow. It was the same time. It was a year after Yes hired Kim Jones. So it was, a lot of the different affiliate or regionals rather were now adding these dugout sideline reporter type people to baseball, because there really wasn't one. There was just somebody who would run out and do the interview. So then, so they added that, and that's how I got the job in Boston.
Nice. My last one is favorite Clyde Frazier suit.
It had to be the cheetah print, because it was just so many prints, so many dots, and it was had to be the cheetah print, and then the material was like this rich, thick velvet. Like it's just incredible. And he gets his material from a carpet and drapery store, because he wanted it like the certain peaks and of course he's 7 feet tall. So, and so he needed the long pieces for his jackets and his pants and his inseam. So I think it was the cheetah back then, but he's had the cow and, the tiger and different colors and the paisleys and the purples. What a great man. I can't wait to see him next week.
Well, him and Breen, what a duo. It's just, I love that.
Yes, I know.
I'm amazed, he's 77, 78, yes. How sharp he still is, calling games with like all his Clydeisms and just knows exactly what's going on. I mean, it's just amazing. He's no different at 78 than he was like 30 years ago calling games. It's just incredible.
Amazing. Fountain of youth. He is so particular about what he eats, the yoga that he would do on just sleep. He would have his he was like doing the intermittent fasting and all that stuff way before we've heard about it. I mean, he just, and he was like the whole thing with Tom Brady, don't lift weights, do the stretching, do the resistance. He was doing that way before Tom Brady was talking about it. And then everybody starts doing all the Pilates because Tom Brady did. I mean, Clyde Frazier was doing it. He's like, that was my secret weapon. How do you want that? Like, I don't want people to know. But he's just also such a cerebral man. And it goes back to when he was playing, how he would read the dictionary to find, learn his new words. And he still does that. So it's incredible. I mean, he has been taking, he's never used to take time off. He has been taking some of those road games off. It's been like a combination of Wally Zerbiak or I guess John Wallace. I'm trying to think who else has done some color analysis, but yeah, God bless him, going strong.
That's great. Great stuff. All right. We appreciate you spending this time with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Again,
you.
our audience, 10:30 on Fox 5 Sports Extra. Tina will give you a lot of good stuff on there. As she said earlier in the show, a lot of different beat reporters, sports personalities on that show. And then, of course, starting next Saturday, CBS Sports Network, Army football, and then December
every
9th.
Saturday. Mm-hmm.
December 9th.
Yeah.
December 9th. And then, of course, as she said, Good Day on Fox, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. She's there with the great Rosanna Scotto,
Yes.
and Bianca Peters, right? That's the
Yes. Yeah.
I remembered. Okay. All right. Thank you, Tina.
All right, Vin and Mike. Thank you, guys. It was so great talking to you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.
Take care.
All right, Mike.
All right, Vin.
It was the great Tina Cervasio with us. It was
A lot
good.
of great insight.
A lot of
What
good
stories,
insight.
so much she covered.
I know you wanted to dig into that Red Sox stuff with her.
I had to dig into that. It must be so hard for a New York sports fan like her, but it was a job out there, and she had appreciation, and she went out there and got to cover some great.
The big telling thing for her, right, was at 11 years old or 10 years old that her father supported her to be a sports reporter early in life, right? Like basically said, why don't you do something like that, And she really ran with it, over the next, amount of time. And she just, took off and there she is. And you see where she started, 7 days a week, news and traffic and part-time
for different networks, all different networks. Incredible.
Yeah. So now she's, doing that Sports Extra show. I remember the Bill Mazer part of it. We talked about this, like before the internet and before all that, it was, prime time, right? With Berman and Chris Jackson. That's where you always got your football updates. But I remember Bill Mazer Sunday nights, you would get all your sports information because he would roll through like every single game for like 30 minutes and just give you updates and all that stuff. So it's good to hear all that. So she really loved that Carmelo 62-point game.
Well, that was a huge achievement because Bernard King held that for years.
Yeah.
So she got to witness that.
Yeah. Real Knicks fans probably don't like that he has the record. They probably want Bernard to have it back. What do you think Knicks fans really feel about Carmelo? I mean, we know where Patrick is in the spectrum. For me personally, as a Knicks fan, I like Carmelo. I
like him too. I always did.
I think the things that happened to like Patrick Ewing and Carmelo Anthony was they never won a championship, so they're not, enamored like a Derek Jeter or a Mark Messier, right? Or even an Eli Manning, right? It's just like you're in a different world when you win a championship in New York.
Right. What do we always talk about with Patrick Ewing and now Carmelo? It's the people that you play with also, right? So it's the team. So a lot of their individual performances, again, were not as recognized because of some of the teams that they had. Now, Patrick obviously went to the finals, right? And they had some great teams. They made the playoffs all the time, but they didn't win the championship. Carmelo with the 62-point game, they had a couple good seasons, but there's a lot of things that were overshadowed. But both individual great players for sure.
You want to do real quick picks while we have?
Let's do really quick. Real quick.
Give me two.
All right, I do yours first because I'm pulling it up real quick.
I was pulling mine up. That's what I was saying.
All right. Go ahead now.
Give me a second. Hold on. I'm going to pull it right up. All right.
Let me just tell you right now. And you're probably gonna. I think the Giants-Commanders game. I actually like the Giants plus 2.5 in this game. I think that they're going to compete. I think Tyrod is not as bad as people are portraying him, and that I think they'll compete. It's going to be a low scoring game, but I will definitely take them at home plus 2.5. I think they're going to compete against the Commanders.
Yeah.
I do.
The one game I really like, and I think I talked about it before we came on, was Chiefs minus 5.5 home Chargers. This Chargers team makes a lot of mistakes. I don't like their coaching. They got to go into Kansas City. I think Kelsey will be much healthier than he was, last week. You'll have more rest. Mahomes is starting to click. They're starting to figure out things more on the offensive end. Chris Jones is getting more into it, on the defensive side of the ball. I just like that 5.5. I think, to me, that's a 7-point game, not a 5.5-point game. So that's why I would take Chiefs minus 5.5.
Okay.
I'll give you one more.
Go ahead, do that.
One more.
Yeah.
I like the Browns at the Colts -3. Backup quarterback Gardner Minshew is going to be playing. That Browns defense, like I said earlier on the show, to me is one of the top defenses in the league. I know it's a road game going to Indianapolis. Probably no Deshaun Watson again, but I just think from a defensive side of the ball that the Browns are going to cause a lot of havoc, and I think they can win that game, given 3 points.
Yeah. And the Niners Vikings, I'll take the Vikings +7. I think there's a lot of uncertainty with the Niners right now. If they're going to have McCaffrey or Deebo Samuel, Williams, they suffered injuries, so they're kind of off balance right now. The Vikings, the Vikings defense, I don't think compares to the Browns, but I think they'll keep it. I think they'll keep it close, and I think that they could cover the spread. So +7.
All right, that's good. That'll be up on IG probably, Sunday morning?
Yeah, we'll do that.
The Vin and Mike parlay, Sunday morning?
We hit, actually, last week, we hit 4 out of 6. That was pretty good, our picks.
Yeah, that's why I stayed away from the over-unders this week, because I've been doing well in my spreads, but my over-unders have been not up to par. So I just stuck with my spreads this week.
Smart,
right.
man.
I'm going to show you my Mandalorian shirt there real quick. Okay, there you go. All right. And that's how we'll end the show. What do you got? Let me see your shirt. All right, you got to show your shirt. Everyone. That's right, everyone. VinandMikePodcast.com. Go there. Yep. You get a shirt.
It just said the mic, Vin and Mike.
We donate that money to charity. So we'd be happy for you to go on there and check that out. So, all right, Mike. It was a good show.
Great show, Vin.
Thanks, Tina.
Good luck with the games this weekend.
Yeah.
Tina, thank you again.
All right. Talk to you.